Well, thank you very much, Ambassador Hahn, as the Vice President of the Korea Foundation, to your fellow members and other distinguished guests, including the Australian Ambassador to Korea, Sam Gerovich, but also pleasingly 2 former Korean ambassadors to Australia who have made it easy for me because they're both Ambassador Chos, and this is always something that I'm pleased when things are kept simple. But to Sang Hun Cho and Cho Chung Bum, thank you very much for attending today. Hee Kwon Koo, the Deputy Secretary General of the National Assembly. Importantly, Jim Lim, who's here as the President of the Australian Chamber of Commerce in Korea. But on occasions like this, we tend to trend into advertising. Jim is here also as the Regional Manager of the Meat and Livestock Australia. So he would want me to invite you to eat more Australian meat. But that is the only ad for today, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honour for me to be with you this morning. I'm particularly pleased to be here during the year that we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the establishment of Australia-Korea diplomatic relations, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to address you. It's the year of friendship between Australia and Korea. The purpose of my visit primarily is to participate in the G20 Seoul Speakers Consultation at the invitation of the Speaker of the National Assembly, His Excellency Dr. Park Hee-tae. My attendance at this consultation is a good illustration of my view that parliamentarians need to continually work to ensure that a balance is maintained between the Parliament and the Executive. Parliament and parliamentarians have a primary responsibility to represent the interests of their constituents and the broader community. If parliaments are to carry out this responsibility and maintain their relevance and the confidence of the community, then parliamentarians must stay informed and contribute effectively to policy development. Ambassador Hahn mentioned how long that I've been in Parliament, and staying informed has become even more complex over that time. And the trend continues because of the increasing need to take account of the regional and international perspectives on many issues. Fortunately, technology assists us to stay informed and work with our colleagues from other parliaments. But opportunities to meet each other and to visit other countries assists in the development of an appreciation and understanding of different perspectives. The connections between Australia and Korea have grown significantly in the past 5 decades, and in celebrating this 50th anniversary, we recognise the genuine partnership that has been formed between our 2 nations. It's exciting to visit Seoul, a city that epitomises why everyone is talking about the Asia-Pacific century. The world's focus has shifted to this region economically, politically and strategically. But how well is our region prepared for the leadership role that this represents? What more needs to be done to cement the region's position in the new international arena? There is much that the Asia-Pacific can be proud of, including the contribution that the Republic of Korea and Australia have both made to the modernisation and development of our region. Over the past 2 decades, economic growth rates have remained at a high level, exceeding those in other regions. Rapid industrialisation and the ability to tap into the global demand for new technology, coupled with economic reforms, have spurred the new powerhouse of the region. People throughout the Asia-Pacific are benefiting from a consequential improvement in living standards, although the many challenges that still lie ahead must not be underestimated. For a region that in the last century suffered much through war, conversations have been replacing conflicts among neighbours, but the fragile nature of some relationships indicates the need for ongoing discussion and careful negotiation. Regional forums and frameworks have emerged to encourage consensus building among neighbours. As our region takes on more of the leadership mantle on key global issues, it is important to recognise that parliaments of the Asia-Pacific play an increasingly significant role in our regional fabric. Parliamentarians help bring forward the ideas, aspirations and concerns of the communities they represent at the local, national and regional level. Parliamentarians help to develop community support for difficult and complex issues that governments have to deal with in the modern world. This is especially important as many issues now have an international perspective and require a coordinated international approach. It is easy for communities to become inward-looking. Parliaments help build the framework of laws needed to deal with the pressing issues of our time, including trade, security, the environment, health and education. Parliamentarians provide an oversight role to ensure that governments provide sound administration, including in the dealings that governments have with one another. The emergence of a vibrant parliamentary community among the nations of the Asia-Pacific is an important indicator of our growing regional maturity, confidence and focus. The Australian Parliament is proud to belong to this regional parliamentary community and to play its role by actively engaging with parliaments throughout the Asia-Pacific. That parliamentary engagement can be seen in 3D through our support for discussion, discovery and development. The Australian Parliament belongs to key parliamentary associations, such as the Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum and the Interparliamentary Union. The conferences, seminars and workshops organised through these associations help build links between Australian parliamentarians and parliamentarians of neighbouring countries. In my experience, the value of regular dialogue between our parliamentarians cannot be underestimated, as it builds mutual understanding and a real appreciation of other perspectives. On a regular basis, members of Parliament are able to discuss with other regional parliamentary colleagues the issues of most concern, whether it's climate change, trade liberalisation, asylum seekers or counter-terrorism. Most importantly, the information sharing that takes place helps to broaden and shape perspectives on these issues. Through these parliamentary forums, participants bring forward issues that their members believe are critical to the future development and prosperity of the Asia-Pacific. In recent years, for example, Australia has been instrumental in drawing international parliamentary attention to issues such as food security and nuclear non-proliferation. If real outcomes are to be achieved on such issues, an international consensus must be built, and parliamentarians must contribute to the solutions at the regional, national and local level. Last year, the Interparliamentary Union Assembly held in Bangkok. At that assembly, I spoke about the importance of parliamentarians in our region engaging with efforts to rid the world of nuclear weapons. I urged my fellow parliamentarians to promote and support resolutions or declarations that advance nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament, to use parliamentary accountability mechanisms to review progress and apply pressure if governments are slow to respond, and to lobby behind the scenes to build broad support for strong outcomes. Parliamentarians are uniquely placed to draw on their relationships with colleagues around the world to build the consensus for action on nuclear weapons. As a region that is attracting the world's focus, our region's parliamentarians can use that opportunity and their influence to help rid the world of the 23,000 nuclear weapons that still exist today. Over several years, Australia has sought to ensure that the voice of small island nations in the Pacific is given greater prominence in international forums, particularly where those forums are debating issues such as climate change, which is so critical to the very survival of the island states. Last year, together with the Interparliamentary Union, the Australian Parliament coordinated a meeting of Pacific parliaments to hear about their needs and interests. One of the outcomes of that meeting is that an Asia-Pacific parliamentary workshop on climate change will be organised in August this year in Australia. Part of the workshop will be an opportunity for regional parliamentarians to consider emergency management issues, including natural disaster preparedness, and the role that parliaments may have in this regard. In light of recent devastating natural disasters in our region, including in Australia, this is an issue that warrants more detailed discussion and review at the national and regional level. Regional parliamentary engagement for the Australian Parliament means discovering more about the region. This is done through a program of delegations that allow Australian parliamentarians to visit countries in the region and that enable parliamentarians from around the region to visit Australia. While visits to and from the Asia-Pacific have long been an important focus of our parliamentary delegation programs, engagement with our neighbours has now been given increased priority, and I expect that to continue to be the case. During her recent visit to Korea, Prime Minister Gillard issued a joint statement with President Lee encouraging bilateral exchanges between our country's parliamentary leaders. And as Speaker, I am keen to foster such exchanges. I've been impressed by the technology that underpins the operations of the Korean National Assembly, and I would like to increase our information sharing on how parliaments can best work in a digital age. IT security is a critical issue, and the Australian Parliament can learn from the experiences of our neighbours, particularly when the Korean National Assembly is a world leader in parliamentary IT. As another initiative to boost our regional parliamentary engagement, the Australian Parliament has recently introduced an annual visit to ASEAN countries by Australian parliamentarians. And this year we'll invite a delegation of ASEAN parliamentarians to visit Australia to familiarise themselves with our country and our Parliament. Parliamentary committee visits to Asia-Pacific countries have been introduced to allow more detailed exploration of issues that are of particular interest to our parliamentarians, particularly through their committee work. This new emphasis on visits by our parliamentary committees is very important, as parliamentary committees are the engine room of parliaments. They investigate issues in detail and make recommendations for legislative and administrative reform. By tapping into the wealth of knowledge and experience in our region, parliamentary committees can benefit their work and the work of our Parliament. Again, I make the point that many of the issues that our committees deal with now have regional or global aspects that need to be taken into account when policy solutions are being canvassed. It is important that our committees are able to interact with their colleagues in other parliaments. It is important to build relations between the future leaders of Australia and the Republic of Korea. While this is an important aspect of engagement between our parliaments, one program that supports this effort is coordinated through the Australian Political Exchange Council. And, of course, there are opportunities for increased engagement between Australia and Korea through this Council's program, and I congratulate the Korea Foundation for signing a Memorandum of Understanding with the Australian Political Exchange Council on Monday night. Ambassador Hahn has indicated that there will be a delegation sent to Australia very soon under the scheme, and he's also outlined that a delegation will visit from Korea in August, and I look forward to that delegation travelling to Australia under this new arrangement, and I look forward to greeting that delegation. In celebrating the partnership between Australia and Korea, two countries with well-developed parliamentary systems, the needs and interests of developing parliaments in our region can also be embraced. I welcome Korea's contribution to regional parliamentary strengthening through the support programs it offers, and I note the National Assembly's program for providing computers to developing parliaments in the region to help build their IT infrastructure. The Australian Parliament has established a similar support program for Pacific parliaments, and with funding from Australia's Agency for International Development, has recently been able to expand the program to establish Pacific parliamentary partnerships that help develop the capacity of Pacific parliamentarians and parliamentary secretariats. I believe that there is an opportunity to assist emerging parliaments in our region to become more effective within the bounds of their own societies and cultures is through the Asia-Pacific group of the Interparliamentary Union. This group has an opportunity to become increasingly engaged in regional parliamentary strengthening programs. If the promise of the Asia-Pacific century is to be achieved, then every effort must be made to ensure that no one gets left behind. With partners like Korea, which shares a commitment to regional development, including at the parliamentary level, I am very confident about the Asia-Pacific future. I thank you very much for this opportunity.